As I drove to and from the buffalo farm this trip, Mother Nature was resplendent in a rustic brown suit with green pinstripes. If you've ever watched Clarkson's Farm on Amazon, you'll have seen the seed drilling that creates this order in the fields, unless Jeremy Clarkson is driving the tractor. Critters were frolicking in the early morning fields under the watchful eye of large birds of prey, and I asked one of our neighbours what they liked best about this time of year. I think we can all get behind that sentiment. With a tear in my eye, I left France and returned to England, carrying with me a plank of wood that had previously been a tread in the stairs. I showed it to you in a previous video. Well, here is one of those pieces of wood. But as you can see, it does actually have some woodworm on the edge of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a square winged platter with a bit of routing on the surface just to make it a bit more interesting. Now, I've already done one, and this is the upper face of the tread, and it was absolutely like stone. So obviously the 100 years or so of footfalls up and down that staircase with muddy boots and whatever, it's encrusted this surface and basically turned it into rock. So I'm going to need a carbide tool to get rid of that face, and then I can probably start with the traditional tools to turn the bowl in the center and the wings on the outside. So let's get on with it. I'm well aware that watching wood spin round isn't everybody's cup of tea, so I've sped this up quite a lot. The first thing that I did was to turn the front face of the wing, and that included a small bead on the face just on the edge of where the bowl would go in. That bead then turned into the inside of the bowl to create a very small groove that the chuck jaws will expand into, and that's what I remounted it on when I went and turned the back. So when I turned the back, I also turned a small foot spigot that the jaws would then clamp onto, so I reversed it again, and now I can turn the inside of the bowl. So once the front face is sanded and the inside of the bowl is sanded, I then reversed it back onto the slight groove on the inside of the bowl, finished off the foot, made sure that everything was sanded, and then I moved on to the next stage. So, what we've got here is on the back of the chuck, we have these pins around the peripheral of it, and we have a peg which locks into it, which is locked onto the bed, so that's not moving anywhere. In other words, it keeps the disc here, I say disc, it's actually square, but it keeps our bowl in exactly the same position every single time. So what we're going to do is we'll start off with the bowl on one of the pins, holes, such that the top of the bowl is exactly level with the top of the lathe. That means that when I reverse it around, I can also keep it level, and theoretically I'm starting at the same point each time. So what we're going to do now, I've set the router bit so that it routes half of our wing, and it will do arcs through the wing. You'll see. So let's get that in one of the holes. We'll set that to be flat across the top. Now, the thing that is a good idea to do is to make sure that the second one, that the second face, overlaps ever so slightly with the first one. Reason being that these wings, through the heat of the sanding or the moisture in the wood, they will flex slightly. As you turn this, the wings flex, which isn't helpful, but it's just part of wood. So there we go. That is very, very slight overlap. So what we've ended up with is a series of scallops which, where they overlap one side to the other, you get a hole right the way through. So we've sanded both faces. We've sanded the back of the bowl, we've sanded the inside of the bowl. Now I'm just going to get rid of this foot. So where that foot is right there, it's about 5 millimeters thick. So I don't really want to remove very much of that base, just enough to make it look like it's an intentional foot and get rid of those teeth marks. So there we go. It's a bowl with a routed front and back, and you can see through the holes. So I'm going to take this up the road now where I do my finishing and do a couple more things with it, and you can watch those as well. Right, off we go. In this bottle is a mixture of vinegar and wire wool. In actual fact, this is a cleaning vinegar. It's not a domestic inside put on your salad vinegar. This is one that I bought in a French DIY shop for cleaning, so it's stronger. You put a bunch of wire wool into a jar with the vinegar, and the vinegar eats the wire wool and turns it into a sort of brownish liquid which reacts with the acid in woods which have acid in them, like oak. The reaction is that the acid turns the chemical that you're painting on black, so the surface of the wood goes black, and you can see that as I paint it on, it looks wet, browny wet, and then black wet. And that's what we're doing. The trick is really to get the brush right the way into the routed grooves so that there is no bright oak showing. You just have the wings with a black face to it, and then you see these bright little sparkles of light where the piercings overlap and you can see right the way through. That's it.